Joey Strube here at Torque Link. Today we're going to show you how easy it is to tune your Snocross sled. Today we're actually working on the 600R, the new Polaris 2021 EFI, and we're going to go through and show you that you can really turn this ECU into a standalone and make the thing do whatever you want it to do. We can adjust the fuel, adjust the timing, adjust the exhaust valves, adjust the fuel compensation due to different engine inputs. We can adjust the ignition timing due to other engine inputs. And knock tables, hot start. We have all those functions built into our tuning software so that you can make quick changes, go out, test, and make this sled everything it can possibly be. Now I'm going to show you everything that's in here first. So it's fuel, ignition, exhaust valve operation, RPM limits, if there's break-in, fuel compensation, ignition compensation, what the ECU strategy is during hot start, knock tables if you want them active or not active, idle properties, and system. So the system ones you probably aren't going to be in unless you're very advanced. We're going to go into the fuel. We're going to show you what is available in the fuel. We have fuel exhaust valve closed and open, and we also show you the dyno modes that are in there. Exhaust valve closed is how many milliseconds the injector is open at each portion. Say this is closed throttle, full throttle, and this is your RPM up and down the left side. So naturally it'll sweep up and down from the lower right to the upper left. It'll kind of, do like a pattern like this as you're on and off the throttle. And then we also have exhaust valve open. And you can see underneath it says what each thing is in the parameter comments on the bottom here. So if you ever don't know what you're looking at, you can look at the parameter comments and it'll give you a good description of what you're in here. Now, if you want to make an easy correction, we have tables built in here so that you can easily do that. Now, we're going to open one of those up so you can see what it looks like. You can tell here that Polaris from the factory made an easy correction of 6% richer down in this bottom portion. Ours is 100 up here, and if you want to add a given amount to a certain area, say we want to go up 3%, we can fill these with a 103, and that's 100% plus 3. So that's your original plus 3% more. And now to save this into the bin or tune file, all we have to do is hit save. We want to save this as, and we'll name it something new like this test 1. That means that we made an addition to this, and now it's saved under test 1. So if you go to flash a file, you would choose that test 1 if you want the new changes in there. We'll go through the rest of these and show you what else is available though. Closed easy correction, this is where you would make a quick change, and you'll notice most of the values in there are 100. 100 represents 100% of the original value. So if you want to go up 3%, you'd be 103. If you want to go down 3%, you'd be 97. 5% up would be 105. 5% down would be 95. We also have ignition. Ignition, we have exhaust valve closed and exhaust valve open under normal operation, and then we have also a dyno mode in there. So if you find yourself on a dyno, you can mess with that dyno mode if you don't see the changes happening that you're making in the regular tables. So the normal ones you'll be in for changing ignition, exhaust valve closed, will be in the normal. This is your timing curve. So you can see closed throttle, open throttle, low RPM, high RPM. This is how many degrees of timing it is until the exhaust valve opens. Once the exhaust valve opens, it goes to the exhaust valve open normal map. And you can see what it is there. You want to make a quick timing change? Super easy. We want to bump up 2 degrees here. We can just say offset 2. We have 2 degrees more timing in this area. Obviously, I'm oversimplifying how you would do it. A lot of people that want to adjust timing, you'll be making, more, located timing changes. If you want to maintain over rev, you won't do certain things, but that's up to you. And then we have exhaust valve. So exhaust valve is the RPM that the exhaust valve solenoid will close and give full pressure to the exhaust valve bellows. And that will cause the exhaust valve to open up at that RPM. This here is kind of neat. Since it is a actuated servo operation, so there's a servo or an actuator that will close off venting to the blow-up valves on your engine. This is at what RPM that will close off and run off spring pressure. So you can see you can change all that. We have barometric pressure on the left, and we have throttle position on the right. So it's fully adjustable. And you make a change the same way. If you want to make this 7,000, you make it 7,000. You want to make it 6,500, you do that. A cold pipe, you could probably get away with a lower number, and a hotter pipe, you'd want a hotter number or a higher number. We have rev limits. Rev limits are where there is an absolute stop for the engine, and it will not allow the engine to go above that. Rev limits in this thing from the factory is 10,000. You know, obviously, you're probably not going to go above that, especially if you're not changing pipes out on it. Break-in. If you put a new motor in, replated cylinders, you might want to mess with this. You can do a time limit for added fuel. We have fuel compensation. This is where the fuel table gets compensated due to a input change. So we have fuel comp baro. That is barometric pressure effect on your fuel curve. So you can see as you go lower absolute pressure, i.e. higher elevation or different weather patterns, it takes away fuel. And as you go higher air pressure, lower elevation, it adds fuel. And you can do that whatever. So if you find something's working sweet at Deadwood, but it's not in ERX, you can make a quick change, you know, at the ERX level or the Deadwood air pressure. Fuel compensation. This is where it takes the fuel curve that you're running and then bends it due to any of the inputs. So you have barometric pressure, you have engine coolant temp, pipe temp, intake temp, all those different inputs you can use to bend the output of the ECU. Really turning this ECU into a standalone type setup. You got engine coolant temp, you got intake air temp, and all these do about the same. So you got pipe temp and pipe temp. Ignition compensation. This is just like fuel compensation, except for this is where we use different inputs to affect the ignition output. In the ignition here, we have the same type of stuff, pipe temp, barometric pressure, so you can make changes for different race sites depending upon where you're at. This is a pretty cool one right here. This is the hot start function. So this is where you can say, I want to retard the timing this much during the hot start event, or take away this much fuel. So if you find yourself having issues responding coming off of a hot start or anything like that, you can make changes in here to make it richer or leaner or more or less timing. What's the hot start doing? So this is pipe temperature across the top, RPM on the left, what the fuel compensation is for that. And we also have what the ignition's doing for it. So as you go pipe hotter, you can change all this stuff. So you can see what the factory is doing with their ignition comp, and then to make a quick change, if you want to be harder on the reeds, heat it up faster, or play with heating up your pipe quicker, or make it more survivable for holding it longer, you can do that in here. Because if you're rattling too hard, you're going to hurt your reeds. But this is where you can make changes to find your best reed life and make changes to maximize how fast that pipe heats up. Then we have knock tables. So if you want to put some knock protection in, from the factory there isn't hardly any knock protection, but if you wanted to add knock protection in, we have that ability. You can add that real easy within the knock table section right here. And then we have idle. So we can do some startup fuel add here. We can do idle fueling and base idle adjustments. Then we have system. System is where the fuel injector timing is located. So if you want to make dramatic changes to the engine configuration, the port timing, or something like that, that would require the injection to be sprayed at a different degree, this is where we go in to do that. The system folder, this is actually injection angle degrees. And you have cylinder 1 and 2, and then you also have exhaust valve open and closed. If you're running on the base engine, for the most part, you don't need to be in there, but it is in there for those of you that need it. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing everything inside the Polaris ECU and how easy it is to tune your snowcross race sled. Check out this and all our other cool products at bikemanperformance.com and torquelink.com.
Is that everything?
That's everything, man. Well, that's it for today.